candid conversations, unfiltered opinions, and humor with AVAG Beck's podcast.
Hello, welcome to our episode today. I have the pleasure of having Mr. Mark Collins as a guest today. Mark is a transformation coach. Heavy stuff transformation. What are we transforming from? Everything, life, work. Mark is laughing. You may learn a few things as usual. So excited for this conversation and welcome, Mark.
Thanks so much. It's exciting to be here with you.
Thank you for being here. I'm grateful for your time. So, transformation coaching. Mark, how did you get into that? And what prompted you to want to coach others? Because humans can be hard sometimes, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a great question. I think the start of transformation for me started with myself. So before I really ever felt like I should share with others, teach others, grow others, mentor others, I needed it in my own life, So I was even thinking about it this morning and overcoming the imposter syndrome, fear of failure, the insecurities as I was growing up, the things that told me I wasn't as good as I had hoped to be, and the things that told me that the negative downturns in my life, the things that went wrong, the failures that happened were all I could expect for myself, right? So for me, it was really finding a way for the person I believed I could be on the inside to show up on the outside. And to stop those voices, that, negative thought patterns that were telling me that this is all I could expect, that's all I'm going to be. And so for me, it started with that journey of figuring it out for myself and understanding. And there's a very particular reason why I use transformation versus change versus habits, all in the other stuff, because I tried those things and they didn't work. Habits are just things that you're, instead of married to your negative thought patterns, the belief systems that you have, you're married to a habit. And as soon as I stopped that habit, I stopped that change. And so for me, it wasn't something I wanted to add as a task in my life to carry on for the rest of my life. But I wanted to be that person, a person of confidence and assurance, a person of compassion and care and passion for the things that I'm purposed to do. And so for me, it started with my journey. And in seeing the transformation in my own life and be excited about the life that I was living and the person that I was becoming, started to have conversations with friends and family members and folks in my faith community and other places. And I started to see that it wasn't a me issue, but a we issue. And so, of course, I'm sure like with you that when you find something that's exciting, that's transformational, that's really having an impact, you share it with people around you. And so for me, it started casually with just conversations and ideas and thoughts and, those have you ever moments, have you ever thought of doing this or thinking about this or changing that? And then small teachings, group teachings, weekend teachings. And then it started to become a full-fledged passion to see other people really transformed into the person they're created to be, having their life, whether it's in their relationships or their business or wherever they're at.
Beautiful. So you talked about your own journey with, trying all those change kind of schema of things and not working, and also recognizing within yourself that you needed to change something. So have all of those experiences made you more empathetic to, people that you work with? When there's some people that are kind of like written off in life, or they'll never change, or they're their own worst enemy and stuff of that nature. Yeah. Does it make you more empathetic to work with somebody who may have had, say, a very self-sabotaging pattern most of their lives?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good question, because I think I know where that guy's been, that person, the person who's desperate to have change in their life, that they keep showing up small in their own life. They keep hesitating on their dreams. They keep holding back from actually reaching out for big things in their life or in relationship. They keep sabotaging their relationship. They keep, having anger show up instead of compassion. They keep having insecurity show up instead of, vulnerability. So I've been that guy. I've been that guy in that place who desperately wants to be different, who's trying these things, right? The generic mantras and affirmations, those pattern changes, right? The keep everything on a calendar and do this and that, all the stuff to stop procrastination and all that. And finding, again, it was a habit that as long as I maintained it, I at least was able to manage it, but I never could master my own life. And so, yeah, absolutely. I've been that guy. I've been the person there that is desperate and fearful, really. Fearful that this one didn't work. And is it me? Am I wrong? Am I just having to settle for this life that I'm living and these negative thoughts and this insecurity and living small in my own life? Or can I actually find something that will bring out the person, what I call that hero in hiding, the person that I believe I can be, that he's just not showing up. So yeah, I definitely feel a level of empathy and a level of drive and determination to reach out and be a part of the solution for people who are in that place, who, whether they're successful or not successful, that inner struggle is constant and can be overwhelming sometimes.
Yeah. I like how you said whether they're successful or not successful, because I think there's an overall kind of understanding in a sense. Understanding is not the word, because understanding means you're deep in your knowledge. That is an overall outlook that people that are successful have it all. Like they have all the self-confidence. They're successful in everything. They're not self-sabotaging, even in their own personal lives. How do you work with a person who's made a name for themselves? They're successful in their own regard in society, right? But they're also struggling when it comes to showing up for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great point, because I think there is this paradigm shift that has to take place, that success changes everything. And again, I've been that person who's been struggling and trying to figure out what's the solution, what's the answer to transformation. I've also been that person that believed the lie that once I was successful in business or academics or athletics, now all of a sudden my life will be perfect. I'll have all the confidence I need. I won't deal with those thoughts telling me that I'm going to fail. It's going to be horrible. It's going to be my fault, right? All of those things that come along. So I've been to that place of, for me, having the level of success I had in business, or getting my college degree, or getting my black belt in martial arts, and finding that the guy that was at the other end of that was the same one that I was in the beginning, that the fear of failure, the imposter syndrome, the insecurity just came along for the ride. It didn't stop because I had, a trophy on my wall or better income in my bank account. And so for those guys or those women, it's an easy conversation, because they're in the same place. They're at the top of their mountain and feeling like things aren't different. They look great on the outside. I have clients that, I remember Brett is one of my current clients, who successful in business. He has the family, has the home, has the title and the role and all of that. But nobody knows the man that's waking up at 2 and 3 in the morning, the guy that's afraid of failing in every big business transaction. Doesn't mean he fails all the time. It just means it's a battle he constantly has to fight. And so for me, the people who are there and in that successful realm, they find that, everything didn't change. And even in their home life, just because I'm successful in business and I'm able to achieve something there, it doesn't make for a great marriage. It doesn't make me a better father. It doesn't make me an amazing husband. It's just a task that I've accomplished. And it doesn't mean, there's not value in it. You shouldn't celebrate it, but it's a horrible substitute for identity.
We do get identities attached to the outward successes that we have.
Yeah.
I think it satisfies certain aspect of accomplishment, when society, culture, in my case, culture, Nigerian, and within the Nigerian culture, education and having a stable career is paramount, right? There's a running joke that the day you're born, you're assigned your career path. Which is kind of, how the culture is. Okay, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to be, all those things. But sometimes it's usually not fulfilling, right, for people who pursue that. So do you find that when people culturally, I'm talking about culture in this sense, people who may come from different cultures who, again, are successful, but maybe have a bit of guilt, attached to transforming themselves into a career or something that is fulfilling. How do they get over that hump? Okay, I have a student who had a very beautiful career as petroleum engineer, and he lived all over the world. That's what his father wanted him to do. But deep down, he wanted to be in healthcare and nursing. He was told that was a woman's career. He should never do it. And he waited until his father passed away to pursue that career at a ripe old age of whatever he is right now.
Yeah.
How can somebody overcome that guilt of not disappointing somebody else to really have a fulfilling transformation? Yeah,
I love the differentiation you had between success and fulfillment. And that is the thing that I find with a lot of folks who are really striving to gain a career or a position or a role or title, whatever the thing is, to show value. And so what I tell people is the things that I do and I accomplish, it doesn't mean they're bad or good. I think they're amazing when you are able to have an impact. And I think everybody wants that, right? We all want to believe our life matters, our life has an impact. The challenge is the impact in the world that I'm having, the career, the business, the thing that I'm choosing to use as my impact. Is it coming from who I am, the person I'm created to be, or is it a substitute for that? So in many places, it's a substitute or in, like you talked about culturally, it's what other people have defined as our path towards impact and success. And what you find is this paradox. It's really this wrestling match inside, like that client you have. And I've had some as well who this is what other people say is my version of success. This is what other people say is who I should be. And you feel this tension of, I want to not just please them, but it is something that you can be proud of to be successful in. But there's this feeling on the inside, isn't there more than this? Isn't there more that I'm created for than this thing? And so for us, it's really helping the people to start to unpack, right? Like we focus and have foundations in identity. Who are you created to be? Because it's that thing that's going to drive you, like with the client you've talked about, drive you into the healthcare field versus in the petroleum, energy, engineering field, or whatever that was for him. So it's in this place of understanding there's a difference between fulfillment and success. Right. Everybody says success is what matters. The only people who realize it doesn't are those who are successful and who find that there is still that hole on the inside that says, I'm not doing what I'm meant to do. So for us, it's starting to unpack identity. Hey, who are you created to be apart from your past and your family and the influence of those people around you? And apart from the successes of what the world says matters, who's that person that is standing there looking back at themselves in the mirror? That's who you're created to be. The more I understand who I am, what I'm made for, the passions, the gifting, the talents I have, the more I understand what the path is of impact in my life and the thing I can do. If you're going from what your past has told you and what other people have told you you're supposed to be, or what the world is saying is going to matter, what you'll find is success that leaves you empty versus fulfillment that leaves you believing that this is exactly the life that I'm created for.
Right. And how do you quantify that? Because in our society that, money is a big quantification of success, right? Which is not necessarily true. Yeah. So when someone is pursuing their passion and it doesn't equal what would deem success to be successful, I've had people who've walked away from corporate careers to be entrepreneur. And to be an entrepreneur and build a business, it does take time to break even, right? Yeah. What that becomes a sore point, a bone of contention in really jumping in and getting this fulfilling life transformation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really understanding that there's a difference between the two. There's a difference between success and fulfillment. There's a difference between outward accomplishment and an inward feeling of impact. And the people who are in the midst of it know it. Again, like your client and many clients that I've had where they feel like I've been successful. I've done what the world says matters, but I don't feel different about me. I just feel like I've accomplished something. And we know people like that, people who have, they're amazing in their career and then it becomes a disaster, or they're at the top of the mountain of what they're doing and then they give it all up and everybody else wonders, well, that's what it's supposed to look like. Why doesn't it? So it's not a quantification of, when I'm fulfilled, then I'll have money. It's understanding that you're either living from who you're created to be or your world's making up the difference. You're either living the impact you're supposed to have or you're using everybody else's definition. And what I would tell people from my success, and I know you have as well, is the other side of that is when I reach that mountaintop and I still don't feel any better, when the success, and the joy from it lasts about 10 minutes, when I keep wondering what else can I do because this doesn't matter, when I keep trying to re-succeed, I try and gain more money. Okay, well, I got 100,000. Now it needs to be 500,000. That'll be enough. And then no, now it's 1 million. 1 million will be enough. No, well, it's when I have 2 homes, when I have 5 cars, when I have the home in the Hamptons or whatever the thing is that is your success metric. When you get there and you find out you're not any happier than you were before, maybe it's time to have a paradigm shift of not allowing what the world says and the outside success says matters and start to figure out, hey, how do I unpack some of this stuff? How do I set some of these things aside and become a person of impact and figure out why I'm dissatisfied and what's going to bring me that place of fulfillment? And here's where when you've got it. It's the thing in your life, and I'm sure you do it with the things that you do to help people in the areas that you do. It's this feeling that this is exactly who I was created to be. the thing that is effortless, not that you don't put a lot of activity into it, but you don't have any challenge in trying to be motivated. You don't have any challenge in trying to find time to do it, or what you have a challenge with is trying to find time to not do it, getting pulled away, right? Like with my wife and I, where she has to schedule in things in our life, but because if she doesn't, then I'm going to be right in front of my computer doing the things that matter and that I'm passionate about. Not that my wife doesn't matter in my life, but sometimes you can be singularly focused. It's that thing that you know that this is the me thing. This is exactly who I am. This is the impact that I dreamed of having in my life. When you find that thing in your life, then you'll know that you've reached that level. And you know when you don't have it, because you're still searching, right? The higher mountain, the next thing, the next accomplishment. When you're on that journey, it never ends and it's always exhausting. But when you're a person who's fulfilled, who's living out of the passion of who you're created to be, who's living out that impact in the world, every day is a joy because you know that this is exactly the imprint on the world that your life is supposed to make.
Absolutely. You are anticipated with joy.
Yeah.
You anticipate doing that thing is like, okay, you look forward to it, not with anxiety, because that is what I found in my own life. Doing this and making impact this way, talking to people, meeting new people, being able to be in a creative space where I'm creating, working and building things that will impact the world in a positive way is something that I look at my calendar. Okay, I'm meeting with this person, I'm doing this. I can't wait. As opposed to, oh my God, okay, so I have to go do this tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I'm doing this thing tomorrow. So there's a difference, it sparks, there's a joy that it's not comparable. So when you find your thing, you will know. The journey, right? Let's talk about transformation. There's some transformation that I don't want to downplay it by saying it's easier. But there are some transformations that are a little more manageable than others, in a sense that some decision may have been steeped in trauma of any kind, right? So in that case, do you work directly, or do you maybe bring in a psychotherapist of sort, a talk therapist, whatever it is, to have somebody maybe work through the big iceberg, right? The one buried underneath.
Yeah.
And then you get to the peak of it.
No, absolutely. And so we do our own work with that. And what I tell people is you're either living from who you were created to be or what your life has told you. There really is no in between. If you unpack the root cause and the reasons for the decisions you make and the directions you take and the actions you live out, it really comes from either understanding this is who I'm created to be and I'm walking towards that, or it's because this is what my life has told me. Whether it's, struggling academically, or a family member, parent who told you that you have to be this because this is the success that matters to us, or you've, the things that you do in relationship. It really happens in every area of life. I'll be no greater than the person I believe I'm created to be. And I'll do no more than the person I believe I'm equipped to be. And so for us in understanding and unpacking that, it is unpacking some of those things. What has your life told you? What are the limiting beliefs that you have? What are the negative thought patterns? What is the paradigm shifts, right? I tell people this. There's a book I have, Life Mastery, Living Life by Design, Not by Default. It's over my shoulder if you want to grab a copy. The title is there on purpose because most of the time we're living our life by default, which means that my parents are supposed to tell me who I am and I'm supposed to follow them because that's how you honor your parent. I think, honestly, you honor your parent by living the best life you can, right? I grow my children up and I've raised them as a parent to become adults, not to become children, which means that they are supposed to be fully functioning people, being able to live out their lives autonomously from me. And I'm supposed to be there to encourage them. When you can live from a place of who you're created to be versus what your parents maybe have told you, you can live some of that out. So for us, it's unpacking some of those things of saying, okay, well, everybody has had a life that's told them something. Many of the most successful people are doing it as a counteraction to somebody told them they failed or not being able to succeed at something they really wanted to do, right? And one of the older basketball folks, many people may not know him, his name was Michael Jordan. His success in basketball, being what I consider to be the greatest player of all time, came from him not being able to be on his high school team, of being whatever they call it when you're not a part of the team, you didn't get to make that team. Well, that drove him. The negative impact, saying you're not good enough, drove him to make sure that would never happen again. And many people are living like that. The challenge with it is if I'm living from what my life has told me, then that really is my only driver. And at the end of it, I can be amazing at something and a disaster at other things. I can be amazing in business and have 7 marriages in the meantime. I could be amazing, right, in my vocation and my job, and then have my children not even know me. And so for us, it really is an understanding of, okay, how do you unpack some of those things? How do you quiet the voice, the lies that you've believed, and respond with the truth of who you are? Again, starting with identity. The only thing that overcomes a lie is the truth. And so when I live from a place of who I'm created to be, what my past has told me, what my failures, what other people have said, activities that I've walked through, mistakes that I've made, they don't get to have a voice any longer, which means they don't get to have an impact. They don't give a direction, which means that now I get to live out the life I'm created for, unpacking the hurt, walking in the healing, and living out the person I'm created to be. Everybody is supposed to have an impact. And so my desire is to give them the tools to get there.
Right. That's great. And, it's incredible that you said most people live from a point of having had that negative encounter that pushed them into success. And that success is usually very much in the realm of being hyper-focused in succeeding. I'm going to prove you wrong. Something that usually happens is that we don't recognize that there are other aspects of our lives that are falling apart, right? Somebody that has been successful, and he's very open in talking about extensive therapy he had to participate in to help him kind of like balance life, is Michael Phelps. Michael Phelps was a kid who was bullied a lot, and his mom took him to the YMCA for swimming lessons, and he never looked back, right? And he's been very successful in that realm, but that became all he did.
Yeah.
Right? And going through therapy and, having that coaching and somebody to intervene and kind of like help him, okay, yes, you've done this. We know your name. Now what? Right? And he started like kind of like unpacking those things. In your experience, do you see that people who are willing to do the work see more of a change in their lives? Because again, it's not easy. It's not an easy journey. It's not an easy process to walk back or walk through those feelings or experience. Is that a process that I don't even know how to phrase this question, because it's not an easy journey for everybody. And some people are willing to jump in and get it done. Some people are kind of very careful about it and they want to tiptoe around it. So in either case, which is more advisable, I would say?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what I tell people is that the people I work with are some of the bravest people I know. Because the truth of the matter is what you're gently saying, I'll truthfully say, which is this: it's never easy for anybody ever, because you have to be willing to go back. So Michael Phelps and his, childhood bullying or the trauma that he had there, Michael Jordan and the disappointment and the embarrassment of not being able to make his high school team, being told he's not good enough, right? Mm-hmm. Myself in my own life, growing up with having a mother who, had some challenges, emotional, mental, relational challenges that I've walked through. Anything that you're walking through is a challenge, because here's the truth of the matter. It's not an incident I walk through. It's not an experience that I have, but it's an identity statement that I take.
Yeah.
What Michael Jordan was taking from his experience, just to paraphrase for him, was, you're saying I'm not good enough. I'm going to prove you wrong. And me too. And the same thing with Michael Phelps, where he felt like he was a victim. He was in a situation that he couldn't control. Well, what can I control? I can control going to the swimming pool and trying to improve my swimming times. I can control outworking everybody else around me. Michael Phelps, I remember hearing a conversation with him that leading up to his first and his second Olympics, he would go to the pool. He would do his exercises, the things he needed to do 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Because he knew that everybody else would do them 5 and 6. And over the period of 4 years, he would outwork them so much that he would be able to have all the success that he had. But he had nothing else. Yes. He had no relationships. He had no people in his life. He had training and home, because he needed to prove he could be the person he was hoping he could be, not the person that his life told him. Mm-hmm. So here's the truth of the matter for anybody listening. It's not the experience you've walked through. It's the identity statement you've taken from it. My mother, when I was younger, about 6 years old, my dad was in the military here in the United States. And as part of that, sometimes your job classification, what you're doing for the military is needed elsewhere, and they send you there. Sometimes they send the whole family and you stay there for a while. Sometimes they send you temporarily and you'll go by yourself. That was the case for him. So he was in a foreign country for a period of time while my mother was taking care of 4 young children and a household for the very first time. It was something she couldn't really comprehend or be able to manage. And so she had a nervous breakdown and she was hospitalized. So for this young man, myself and my sisters, the person of security and comfort and care, my father was gone. The person of love and compassion and empathy, my mom was gone. And we're sitting here and while they're trying to piece together their plan, she had some siblings, my uncles and aunts, and each of them decided to take one of us. There were 4 kids. Each of us decided to take one of us to take care of until my father was able to come back and my mother was able to come out of the hospital. And so now your father's gone, your mother's gone, and everybody you spend your time with that you know that you're closest to is gone as well. There's an identity statement that young Mark took from that, which was people who love you leave you. And it was an insecurity that played itself out in relationships from that point forward for the rest of my life until you start to unpack some of those things. And still, for me, the work that I do is called life mastery. And still you walk in this life mastery journey, start unpacking identity, who you're created to be, and start looking at, okay, what are these areas why is it when I'm in a relationship and we have a disagreement, there's this feeling of panic, this feeling of dread, this feeling that this isn't going to work out, it's going to be a disaster, right? Anything that we do, whether it's academically, athletically, right? It's that voice in your head that nobody knows about that's telling you you're going to fail and it's going to be your fault. And so this young man who believed that people who love you leave you, you're not worth loving, they're not worth staying with, it affected every relationship. So how do you overcome it? You have to figure out, first off, what's the feeling you're feeling? Where's the first time you felt it? What's the identity statement you took from it? The feeling you're feeling is, I'm not worth loving. Well, when did you feel that first? When was the first experience you had of that? Oh, I remember when. What's the lie you believed? People who love you leave you. What's the truth that you know? No, it wasn't a statement of love towards you. It was just the condition your mother was in, doing the best that she could to manage a life that she felt overwhelmed by. Yeah. It had nothing to do with you. You were just a bystander to her hurt. So in that place of seeing the lie, believing the truth and understanding it, now all of a sudden you're transformed in your life. But that journey of first off recognizing that this isn't healthy, or this isn't good, or this isn't empowering, this isn't driving me forward in a positive way, figuring out what's that emotion, being honest about where it's come from, and dealing with that with the truth is a challenge to work through. But here's the truth of the matter. The alternative is never dealing with it. The alternative is having a life that's amazingly successful. Michael Phelps was the best swimmer of all time, who had nobody he was close to. And when he stopped doing swimming, now all of a sudden there was an identity crisis because this was all that I was. We know people that are, you're amazing at one thing and the rest of your life is a disaster, or you're amazing about one thing and then you crash and burn. It's because I'm using my world around me, my outcomes and the things I can control as a substitute for who I am. And eventually that's not going to work. The alternative is, can I start to unpack some of those things, do the brave thing of being honest about it, being honest about where I'm at? Because in that place, I'll tell you, for my life with my wife, our marriage is amazing. It wasn't always that way. My businesses and my relationship with other people are healthy and whole and authentic because of the work that I did. You can't get to authenticity and vulnerability. You can't get to who you're created to be and the fulfilling life you're created for if you're holding on to the hurt that's standing in the way. You can live your life. You can fool the folks around you. You can only have to deal with it on the inside. But what if there was more? What if there was a life that you could live that would be amazing? A life, what we call a life mastery life, living life by design, not the default of you just have to manage it. But what if you could master it? To people who decide to do that, they don't just have success, they have fulfillment. For us, it's in all areas. It's in spiritual, relational, vocational, physical, financial. For us, the work isn't so you can become a better manager, boss, owner, entrepreneur. It's how can you live the best life you're created for? So life mastery for us is living from who you're created to be at the highest level you're created for in every area of life. So how can you live that life instead of being satisfied with one aspect of life while the others are, on the sideline?
That was beautiful, Mark. That was beautiful. And thank you for sharing that story, because vulnerability is something that in society is looked as weakness. Is really the biggest strength ever.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to, not only recognize, but speak it out. Like this is the nucleus of what this whole thing is from, and I have to deal with it. I have to address it. And especially with our men in our society, we brought into this stoic, masculinity, that vulnerability is weakness. It really, it is not. If you want to have that fulfillment, success is success. You work hard enough, you're going to be successful at whatever you hyper focus on. But are you fulfilled? Right? Does it speak to you? Does it make your heart smile? Does it have this happiness that permeates your immediate environment, be it your family, your friends, your first faith circle, whatever? Do you have that fulfillment? And recognizing that and sitting in that feeling is something that we're very afraid of as people, because it forces you to confront the noise, right? It forces you to confront that one thing. And as a young child, it's like, oh, well, that happened when I was just a child. But yes, it still has an impact.
Yeah.
That is what some people sometimes fail to see. So how would you address somebody that maybe plays down an impact of something in childhood, and they feel like, well, I've gotten over it, that was just a one-time thing, or a snippet in time in my lifetime. I'm over it. I don't think that affects me much.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I would say is you're the only one who thinks that. Everybody in relationship with you, everybody who interacts with you, everybody who's around you sees more of the truth in what you're allowing yourself to see right now. And I've been there. I've been that guy that happened back then, whatever it was. I struggled in school academically in some places, whatever, I'll just overcome it here. But yeah, until that tension happens, until confrontation happens, until challenge happens, and then the real you shows up. And so if you believe that you're the only one who does in your life, everybody in relationship with you is already seeing the outcome of that. And if you've been told that, it's been a lie. You never get over anything. You never just move past anything. It has an imprint. And again, it's not because it's the experience you've walked through. It's the identity statement that you're taking from it. You're either proving it right with your decisions, your actions, and the things you're doing, or you're proving it wrong. Michael Jordan, proving it wrong. Michael Phelps, proving it wrong. Me in my own life, trying to use academics and athletics, proving it wrong. But at the end of the day, you're still left with that voice telling you you're not good enough. Yeah. You don't get to do enough. Michael Jordan, in his retirement speech, it was famous not because of something amazing he said, but because he continued to talk about people who said things about him, who discounted him, who disrespected him, or things like that. He's the best basketball player of all time, multi-millionaire, success in all sorts of ways. But in his retirement speech, he focused on people who negated his greatness, who told him something, who disrespected him in some way, or at least he thought so. At the end of the day, he was bitter then because he was angry back in the day when he was first started. Do you want to be that person who everybody wants to avoid, or do you want to be that person who wants to live the life you're created for? Vulnerability, like you talked about, you know what real vulnerability is? It's you being willing to. There's a phrase in the Bible: naked and unashamed. Mm-hmm. It's me being willing to be who I am, authentically, exactly who I am, not putting on a show, not showing somebody that I'm not, because I'm fully confident in who I am. I'm not trying to pretend I'm somebody else so that I don't worry about what you're going to think of me. It's not an arrogance that says that I don't care about you, you don't matter. It's I'm so confident in who I am, I'm willing to show up as who I am, whatever your response is to me. That's what vulnerability looks like. It's not soft and squishy. I'm giving you every horrible thing that's happened in my life. I'm not able to stand in the structure. It's actually a strength that says I'm willing to be me, whatever your response to me is, and authentically exactly where I'm at. So that's the work that I invite people to. That's the thing that gives you that fulfilling life in every area of life. You can, like you talked about, success is just really working harder than the next person, longer than them, outworking everybody around you until you reach that level of accomplishment. but it doesn't make for a great marriage. It doesn't make you an amazing parent. It doesn't give you lifelong relationships where people long to be around you, not because of your charisma, but because of your character. It doesn't give you that life that says that I love every aspect of who I am and what I have.
Yeah, it's going back to that speech. And it's amazing that somebody at the pinnacle of their career was still driven by people you've already proven wrong time and time again, but he still had an impact. Do you think maybe he embarked on a healing journey afterwards? Because I haven't really seen any interview specifically with Michael Jordan that maybe really went back in his career. Maybe that's something. I've seen documentaries, but I haven't seen like anything reflective in a sense. Do you think it would have been necessary for him to embark on a journey to have him take off those glasses of I have to prove you wrong, for him to actually see his accomplishment and focus on maybe improving the other side of, he's a wonderful entrepreneur. He owns businesses all over. Again, that's the success we see. I don't know what is going on the inside, but for some people, anybody who's listening to us right now, Mark, who has been driven by that negativity or an occurrence in life to become successful, what would your suggestion be to them?
Yeah.
Yes, we see you're successful. What now? Yeah, what should they do? Because for somebody to get there and then focus on that negativity, and everybody's like, dude, at least say something positive about people who supported you. It kind of like is a slap in the face for everybody who rooted for you, supported you, believed in you, and knew you could do this when you're spending a speech like that on negative influence. And sometimes we do it without even thinking.
Yeah.
What is your suggestion for somebody who may find themselves in that space currently?
Well, and I think so it's really fascinating, right? So if I could unpack something really quickly, here's the interesting thing. Who he was, Michael Jordan, Michael Phelps, anybody of great success in your life, who they were is either, your success is either coming from who you're created to be, or it's a substitute for it. Mm. And what I mean is that his skill set was still the same. There was no greater level of skill he had, really no greater level of drive he had, no greater level of ability he had that came from him trying to prove other people wrong, trying to overcome disrespect or prove that he was somebody of worth. He had no greater skill level because of that. The same skills he had with that mindset, he could have had with a mindset of, I know who I'm created to be and the level I'm created for, I'm striving for, and this is the outcome from it. Right. The outworking of the choice he made was the inability to have long-term relationships, the inability to have those things that you desire to have, right? To have people who want to be around me, right? It was said of him that he couldn't lose at anything at any time. Mm-hmm. Now, you and I, let's just imagine, how fun is a person like that to be around? How often do you want to play games with somebody who's always angry when they lose, always having to do it again, always have to play it again, always talking a bunch of yak and a bunch of garbage? Because how fun is that? That's, to me, exhausting. Those are people I avoid. Those aren't people I try and be around, not because I'm afraid of winning or losing, but because you suck all the joy out of the relationship with what you're doing. So you've got your success and you've done it through your anger, really an identity statement. Right. How much of the rest of your life is something I want to model? It's the people I want to have as mentors of people that I want to be around. Isn't the guy who's great at one thing and then the rest of his life is a disaster, who can't have relationships that last, or people that want to be around him? People avoid him unless they need him. I want to be around people who every area of your life is at the highest level. Again, life mastery, living life from who you're created to be at the highest level in every area. The people I want to follow, the people I want to emulate are people who have all of those things. I want as much to have a healthy relationship and an amazing long-term marriage as I do to have the highest level of business success in my life. Because what I do know is when I die someday, what won't matter is the accomplishments I've had. It's the people that I've impacted. So how do you do it? Well, you first off start off with identity. Michael Jordan, from everything he was doing, and me and everybody else in our lives, everything we're saying, everything we're doing is coming from an identity statement we have. His identity statement was, to paraphrase and to just project onto him, is you're not good enough. You have to constantly win to show it. What if he would have had a relationship with himself, an identity statement that says that I'm the best at what I do and I'm going to achieve all that I'm meant for? what kind of relationships would have happened from there. So the people that I would talk to right now, I would say this: you can have your success be a substitute for identity, or you can live from identity. When you live from identity, you walk in authenticity and vulnerability and confidence in who you are, and it has a positive impact in every area of your life. And in that place, you can have the life that you're created for, a life where your relationship is just as good as your business success, which is just as good as your health, which is just as good as your financial acumen, which is just as good as your faith walk. You don't substitute others and sacrifice them so you can achieve one. You live out who you are. And then at the end of your days, you'll have the impact you're created for. And the things that will last, the legacy that'll carry on after you're gone, will be a person who changed lives because he lived, not accomplished things that were forgotten 10 years from then.
So life mastery sounds like a balance, sustaining a balance in all areas of your life. And somebody may argue that most of the noteworthy, be it celebrities or people who have made impact in the world, the likes of Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Oprah, I would say, and the list goes on and on and on and on. There's usually a friction or a fracture in interpersonal relationship. There are others that are successful, that have had a successful long-term relationship. Oprah and Stedman, I would say, even former President Barack Obama and his wife. So is it rational to say that there's a need to neglect other areas of your life to be successful? Because that is what we see. Bill and Melinda Gates unfortunately got divorced. They built the name together and all of that stuff, and the likes of the Bezos and of the world. What happened? What happened through that? Because you see people build together, and at some point does that break? Is it to be expected? Or it was something neglected? What happened to the mastery? Or was there ever a mastery? Or was there this thing of hyper-focusing for success? Be it negativity driven or...
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing really quickly I would say is there's no such thing as balance in your life. I don't give equal time and attention to everything in my life.
True.
I don't mark out. Yeah, and I know you don't mean that, but a lot of times we think that I'm supposed to put 2 hours into my relationship and 2 hours into my health and all that, and think that that's what it looks like. Really, that's management, not mastery. Mastery is me giving all that I am to the thing that I'm in the midst of in every area of my life. So when I'm with my wife, I'm all in. We're all invested. We're doing all of that. Same thing with all the other areas of my life. But to be totally honest, the business takes more time. But it doesn't rob me from time of impact and authenticity with my wife, the opportunity to have things together. So if you feel like, and there's nobody who's built a business that didn't take a good portion of their time. But the difference is that, is it a business as a substitute for a relationship, for identity, or is it because of that? If it's because of that, then me and my wife are walking in unity. We have the same goals and dreams and desires and design. So we have an agreement of what it's going to take to get there. But it also means that we're very intentional of the time that we take for each other, that while this is taking a good portion of the daytime and daylight of our lives, there's times where we get to steal away times that are for us. The things that really have impact for us, that matter to us, that give us that engagement together. And then, the casual things where you're talking about it and, you're not ignoring each other during those times of business, but you're more invested in that. So why doesn't it work? It really comes down to this. Are you succeeding because of who you are or in spite of who you are? Are you succeeding to prove who you are or because of who you're created to be? At the end of the day, who I am, I'm going to be in every area of my life. I'm not going to be a different person in my marriage than I am in business, than I am in my financial, physical, spiritual realm. You show up as who you are. And so at the end of the day, are you living from who you're created to be? Because if you are, then that same man of character and compassion and love and passion and fortitude and desire is going to show up in my marriage, that shows up in my business. Yeah. But when I'm using success as a substitute for identity, now all of a sudden everything comes from that. I get all of my, not just accomplishments, but I get all of my accolades. I get all of my reassurance. I get all of my encouragement because I'm successful at that. Well, that tells me you're a person who is using business as a substitute for identity. me and the things that I walk through in my own life mastery journey, I don't succeed in business to prove who I am. I succeed in business because of who I am. It's who I am lived out simply in this realm of my life. And so what that means is that I'm not stealing away from my family the time and the connection because the business means everything. And in that place, I can give to all of those areas, and I'm mindful of all those areas and have goals and visions in all of those areas. One of the things we do with the people we work with is to say, so life mastery is you living from who you're created to be at the highest level you're created for in every area. Well, that highest level, what's the vision you have for yourself in your relationships, spiritually, financially, physically, vocationally, right? What's the vision you have for your life? What's the goal you have for your life? What's the life you're meant to live in those areas? And how do you walk towards that? And so I'm walking towards that vision for that highest level life in every one of the areas of my life. Somebody who doesn't live out that journey, who doesn't have a transformational journey, who's living from what their life has told them, what their past has said, and who they believe they are versus who they're created to be, will use one area of their life as a substitute. And in that place, it means everything. And eventually you mean nothing and we fall apart. So it really all comes down to identity. I know it sounds very boring, but it's very truthful. If I'm living from who I'm created to be, then I'm showing up as that man in every area of my life. If I don't, then I'm grabbing something that proves something I want to be. Right. And I'll put all of my energy into that and forego everybody else.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Outward success can be intoxicating in a sense. And it's very easy to forget the other stuff, life around you. So, Mark, you do a lot to help everybody. I want you to please tell us about your product, your offers, your services, where we can find you, your socials, your website, all of that stuff. So whoever is listening to us and feels impacted by this conversation and would like to reach out and, see how they can work with you, how can they find you?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you for asking. So I try and be a one-stop shop. So everything I have is on my website, which is freedom-for-life.net. freedom-for-life.net. What is on the website is my course, Life Mastery. So identity, there's things that we use to try and bring strategies and tools for you to be able to really kind of unpack that thing that we talked about, that transformational journey, really being able to unpack identity. We have a 3-step process and strategies that we use for that to unpack identity. In the course, we also have the free transformational tools, which is mastering your thoughts, words, and actions. We give you a framework for figuring out how to have your thoughts match who you're created to be, not what your life and your past has told you, the words and the actions as well. So yeah, it's a 14-lesson robust course. It has one-on-one coaching. It has group, interaction so that you can be part of a community. So that course is out there. My book that you see over my shoulder, Life Mastery, Living Life by Design, Not by Default, you can get that on Amazon, but I also have an electronic version on my website. So you can carry it on any device that you have. I'm on all the socials. I have a YouTube channel. So if you look up Freedom for Life or Freed for Life, you'll see me out there. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, and all of those other areas. So, and if you want to ask me any specific questions about if Life Mastery is for you, you can reach me at Mark, M-A-R-K, at freedom-for-life.net.
Beautiful. Thank you. And in case you didn't catch all of that, it was too fast for you, don't you worry. We're going to have it in the show notes. We're going to have the link and you can click in and, get to Mark's website. And just like he said, he's offering, reach out and see if this is for you. It would not hurt. We all have areas that either will wear or, I don't want to call them obstacles, but they can be a little bit of a stumbling block, right? Either you're aware or you're not aware and you're trying to get to it. And there's that you shouldn't know all the answers, but you can help. You have somebody to help guide you along the journey. It's worth it, I would say. So reach out and see if, Mark is somebody you like to work with or just ask questions. So Mr. Mark Collins, before I let you go to your other areas of life, there's something that I like to ask my guests to please do. You've left a lot of golden nuggets already, but I like to ask for a few golden nuggets you'd like to leave our listeners with. Yeah,
I think for me, the one thing that I got right, so I was using business success and all the things to try and substitute for identity and really kind of have that transformation. I used a lot of programs, books, courses, gurus, people out there that really brought change, that brought habits, not transformation. So I created a transformational course, but there was one thing that I did right throughout the whole process, and that was refusing to give up on myself. Refusing to believe that that guy that I believed I was on the inside, the hero in hiding, I call it, that he couldn't show up in my life. Even if the first thing, the second thing, the 10th thing didn't work out, I refused to give up on me. I chose to bet on me one more time. So for anybody who's listening, watching, a part of this conversation, the one thing that you need to do that I can't do for you, that we can't do in substitute for you, is the belief in yourself, refusing to give up on yourself. I believe I have a transformational course, but the one thing I can't provide for you that you can provide for yourself is that belief that says, I'm going to bet on myself one more time. I refuse to believe I can't have the life and the transformation that I'm looking for. If you do that one thing, I believe that the thing that you need to have happen so that you can live the life you're created for will show up in your life. But it takes you being uncompromising in your belief in yourself. If you do that, everything else will fall into line when it's meant to.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And believe in yourself. And nobody else will believe in you the way you can believe in you. Once you dig in and know that you were made for something extraordinary, things tend to fall in place. I don't know why that is, but it tends to happen that way. So thank you everybody for listening. I hope, pray that there was something we said here in this conversation that mattered to you or made an impact in your life. You're not alone. You're not alone. And, sometimes it may feel that way. There are a community of people that are looking to uplift you while you embark on your journey. You need support. You can't go at this all by yourself all the time. So look for your village, look for your support system, look for a group, and look for a coach that will help you along that journey. So thank you for listening. Let us know what you think. Please make sure you explore Mark and everything Mr. Mark Collins and see if that coaching program is right for you. All right? Thank you and take care of yourself. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Avik Beck's podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. It really helps us out. We'd love to hear your thoughts and continue the discussion. So join us on social media or drop us a message. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and keep pushing the boundaries of your world